So this is the time when Krishna has appeared in Vrindavan, and once he appeared in Vrindavan, he performed so many wonderful pastimes. And the pastimes of Krishna have given so much of assurance of safety to all the devotees in the world. The word that is used actually is the word protection. Whenever we hear about Krishna, the reason why we are blissful and happy is not only because Krishna performs so many wonderful pastimes that we are all attracted to, but because innately all of us are actually related to Krishna eternally. The reason why we are related to him eternally is because we are not this body. We are all spirit souls. And actually our constitutional position is always to be the servant at the lotus feet of Krishna. Whatever rasa that Krishna allows us to have, whether we see him as a young child or as a friend, or to the gopis as a conjugal lover, or to Nanda Maharaj, Vasudev, Devaki, Yashoda Maya as parents, the common denominator for all of these different mellows of relating to Krishna is still that we are trying to serve him. That is very important. If you don't serve Krishna, Shastras say, then you will end up serving your senses. And if you serve your senses, you will become servant to your senses. Sometimes we think that we can master our senses, but factually speaking, until and unless you are fixed in spiritual life, Shastras tell us it is actually very difficult for us to control our senses. The chief of the senses is the mind, and the nature of the mind, Bhagavatam tells us, is that it is actually a very difficult organ to control. One of the reasons why it's difficult to control is because it is subtle in nature. You cannot see the mind. If you were to do an autopsy to a body, you will not be able to find the mind. You'll find a brain, but you cannot find the mind. Because the mind is considered in Bhagavatam to be subtle. And that which is subtle is very difficult to control. That which is in front of us, it's easier to handle. So the nature of the mind is that it will take you away from understanding what is the nature of your true self. The mind wants you to enjoy this material world without Krishna. And the mind gives you the facilities of the senses. So if you use your senses to try and enjoy yourself separately from Krishna, then the difficulty is that you will forget him. When you forget him, then what happens is your senses take you to all other objects of sense enjoyment. Because actually we are with Krishna because Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer. And actually the proper way for us to enjoy in this world is by serving Krishna. When our senses serve Krishna, Bhagavatam tells us, then Krishna appears before us as Govinda. Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the cows, go, and one who gives pleasure to the senses. That is the meaning of the word Govinda. So actually only Krishna can give permanent pleasure to our senses. All other items that we see before us, relationships, objects, they can only give us temporary pleasure. And eventually that pleasure that we are taking from these objects will turn into something bitter or something painful. Sometimes the people you love most in the world are the ones who can also hurt you the most. This is the nature of the material world. You can't blame them. It is the nature of the material world. Because you become so attached to them, forgetting your constitutional position, that when they do something that you don't expect them to do, you'll either become disappointed or you will become hurt. So expectation in this material world arises because we are not accepting of Krishna in our lives. But the more you accept Krishna in your lives, the more peaceful you will become. So it's a very simple formula to peace. And that's why the residents of Vrindavan, they were always very happy and peaceful. Because Krishna was in the center of all that they did. Everything that they did, they had to have Krishna in the center. So if we can change our lifestyles in such a way that Krishna becomes more and more in the center, gradually, cannot happen overnight, then you will find that your happiness is prolonged. Your happiness is less based on bodily, mental and emotional needs, but it is more grounded in spiritual needs, which is actually true happiness. Otherwise, what will happen is you had the same items of enjoyment that you had in your previous lives. You all had your wives and your husbands and your children. You loved them very much, you were attached to them incredibly. But today you have nothing to show for it because you have forgotten them, right? So if you think that they will be a source of enjoyment and happiness, you are mistaken, because they will be temporary. And just like you cannot live forever, they will not go with you either. And even if they are here and you are leaving, they cannot come with you. They must only stay back. So an intelligent man, Shastras tell us, an intelligent lady, they come to understand that why am I reposing all my happiness in these temporary sources of enjoyment? Because then the happiness that comes from it is also temporary. That is the power of understanding scriptures. If you don't read scriptures and study scriptures and practice what you read and study, then the scriptures are in the air and they are of no value. The problem today is we have so little access to proper scriptures. There's so much on social media which is not even based on scriptures. It's based on mental speculation, people's thinking, their own ideas of self-realization. But if it's not grounded in primary documentation, then how can it be bona fide? You know, it's like a 6:30 lawyer going to court and making an argument on a case based on social media. We call them Google lawyers, you know. We got quite a few nowadays. But you can't do that. That's not how you practice law. You have to bring out the proper documents. You have to present it properly as it is, and then they will be accepted. So you have to study your scriptures. You have to know your scriptures. And if you don't know them, what will your children learn? They will learn nothing. They will not understand that which is temporary will bring you unhappiness. And they will run after everything which is temporary. Look at social media today. It's all based on temporary nature. It's getting shorter and shorter. Your attention span is getting shorter. It's so difficult to sit down and remember Krishna past even 5 minutes for many people today. What to speak of an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours a day. So these are very practical things that we should think about. And we should all surrender our time, effort and energy at the lotus feet of Govinda. Such a beautiful murti. Krishna is Govinda. He is the giver, the true giver of pleasure to the senses. And the best way for you to actually give your senses to Krishna is to control them, regulate them, use them in the service of the Lord like you're doing today for the 1 hour that Prabhu and Mataji has organized for you. This is the perfect engagement of your senses. And if you do that, then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he is known as Rishikesha. Rishikesha means master of the senses. Now our senses, once we surrender them to Krishna, a beautiful point Bhagavad Gita tells us is that Krishna then regulates and directs our senses. We don't have to worry about our senses. Once we use it in his service, he will regulate it. He will direct it. Then we are free. We are free because we know the senses will not disturb us. Otherwise, when the senses disturb us, it is very difficult. You all know in Kali Yuga, there is more disturbance than peace. And the reason for that is because we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna. That's all. So the best way to revive it now is to chant Krishna's names. Shall we do that? I know every time I've come here for the program, we've always been very inspired by the fact that the devotees who gather here actually sing. Sometimes it's very difficult. You go to houses, right? They think it's a performance. They want to sit back and hear you sing. But that's not the point. This is not a performance. You're not paying, to hear us sing. We are very amateurish. So we need you to sing also. And singing is a spiritual activity, right? It's not a performance. So sing Krishna's names. Very simple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And what does it mean? It simply means, oh Lord, right? Hare actually refers to the energy of Krishna, Hare, right? It actually is invoking Srimati Radharani, who is actually Srimati Radhe. So Hara and Hare actually refers to Radha. So what we are asking is, we are asking Srimati Radharani, who is the greatest devotee of Krishna, to please engage us always in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. If Radharani becomes happy with us and she recommends us to Krishna, then Krishna will definitely accept us. And that's how devotees do. Devotees never approach Krishna directly because we have no qualification. But if we approach one who is very pure, like Radharani, then she can introduce us to Krishna. That is how it is. In India, it's like that, right? You need to know somebody, to get to somebody. That's how it is, right? So it's all coming from Krishna actually. This is how it is in Bhakti also. You need to know someone. So just chant Krishna's names, that's the best thing.